Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the sources so you can be truly well-informed.
Great to be here.
Today we're tackling, well, one of the biggest manhunts in history, the decade-long pursuit of Osama bin Laden.
It's an incredible story.
Picture this, not some remote battlefield, but a quiet suburban compound in Pakistan, and inside, this discovery. Almost like a digital Rolodex, you could say.
Yeah, that really cracked things open.
So our mission today is to get past the headlines. We'll look at how the U.S. totally changed its game after 9/11 intelligence, tech, special ops.
All leading up to that raid in Abbottabad.
Exactly. We want to uncover some of the, maybe, surprising truths behind it all.
And to really get it, you have to start with the shock of 9/11 itself, the sheer disorientation.
Right. We all remember where we were, but it's striking how even people high up didn't grasp it immediately.
Totally. You mentioned Barack Obama, then an Illinois state senator.
Yeah, driving along Lakeshore Drive, hears about a plane hitting the World Trade Center.
And thinks it's a small plane, just a horrible accident. And Michael Morrell, a top CIA analyst, he was actually in the president's motorcade.
Wow.
Gets the first news flash. Same reaction. Must be a small plane. It just shows how unthinkable the reality was.
The mind couldn't process it initially.
No. But then you have someone like William McRaven, a Navy SEAL captain at the time.
Watching it on TV from home.
And he apparently knew almost instantly this was different. A new kind of war against what he called a stealthy, stateless organization.
He sensed his world was about to change dramatically.
He knew the SEALs were going to war, just not how or where exactly.
And then there's Ben Rhodes, just a young NYU grad student back then.
Watching the towers fall from Brooklyn Heights. He was actually planning to hand out flyers for his fiction writing.
And that event just changed his whole path.
Yeah, he said he walked away from fiction that day, felt he had to deal with this new reality head-on. These weren't just individual moments. They signaled a huge national shift.
And that shock, it eventually turned into this drive to fight a completely new kind of war.
Right, because 9/11 forced a massive rethink. The U.S. military was built for nation-states, big armies, tanks.
Deterrence.
Exactly. And suddenly they're facing this diffuse global network, Al-Qaeda. Conventional power wasn't the whole answer.
So what was? It wasn't just about more bombs, was it?
Not exactly. The really transformative thing was how information itself became, well, the main weapon, the new fire and maneuver, as one general put it.
Fire and maneuver, like firepower and troop movement in traditional war.
Precisely. But now intelligence was the firepower. We saw this perfectly in that Sinjar raid in Iraq, 2007.
Ah, the motherlode discovery.
Yes. Special ops went in expecting maybe weapons caches. What they found was data. Names, numbers.
The digital Rolodex.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
It linked to computer files on about 500 Al-Qaeda recruits.
And this wasn't just, like, background info. It had real impact.
Oh, absolutely. When they analyzed it, and this was later declassified, it just blew apart the whole idea that Al-Qaeda in Iraq was just a local Iraqi thing.
Right. It showed recruits coming from all over.
Europe, the Middle East. It completely changed their understanding of the enemy network there.
It redefined the battlefield.
It really did. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who later ran the Defense Intelligence Agency, he's the one who said information and intelligence is the fire and maneuver of the 21st century.
And that specific intel led to real action.
Directly. It helped them track down and eliminate al-Qaeda in Iraq's leadership based in Syria, including a key figure named Abu Ghadia.
Just over a year later, right?
Yeah. And that, combined with other efforts, led to this huge drop, like 80% in violence in Iraq by late 2008. It proved that finding the enemy was critical.
So this new focus on intel, how did it zero in on bin Laden himself? What was driving him?
Well, bin Laden's ideas didn't come from nowhere. They were heavily influenced by an Egyptian scholar, Sayyid Qutb.
Qutb executed back in '66, right?
That's him. Qutb saw Western culture as corrupting, believed the Quran was the only truth. He was fiercely anti-Semitic and called for a pure Islamic state, a new caliphate.
And he wanted to fight for it.
Violently, yes. Against what he called jahiliyyah, basically, ignorant societies. But here's the key thing Qutb did. He controversially said modern Muslim nations could also be jahiliyyah if they weren't pure enough.
Wow, that's radical.
Yeah.
Setting the bar incredibly high.
Extremely. And bin Laden totally bought into this. He came from a super wealthy family, as you know.
The Saudi construction empire.
Right. But he renounced all that, went to Afghanistan, became this frontline fighter, a mujahid leader.
And even split with his mentor there, Abdullah Azzam.
Yeah, Azzam wanted a broader front. Bin Laden wanted an exclusively Arab unit. He set up this base called Al-Masada, the Lion's Den, specifically trying to draw the Soviets into a fight.
He was trying to build his own legend.
Very much so. There was this battle, the Battle of Jaji in 1987, militarily, pretty insignificant. Bin Laden got injured.
But in his telling,
It became this great victory, proof of his destiny. It boosted his reputation enormously. He even wrote poetry about it, casting his fight in these grand historical terms.
making the modern world seem like an age of miracles for him.
Exactly. His narrative was powerful.
It's kind of amazing that in 1998, he actually declared war on the U.S. to ABC News, no less.
He did. But it barely registered in the States. Everyone was focused on, well, the Monica Lewinsky scandal and other domestic stuff.
He was just seen as some crackpot Arab. A huge miscalculation.
A profound one. And interestingly, bin Laden made his own miscalculations, too. After 9/11, he genuinely seemed to believe it was this divine success, way beyond what he expected.
Attributing the tower's collapse to God's hand.
Yes. And he was apparently quite surprised that America didn't just cut its losses and retreat like the Soviets from Afghanistan.
A total failure to understand the American psyche there.
A huge cultural blind spot, which definitely shaped his later strategy, or lack thereof.
Okay, so that brings us to the actual hunt. The long grind. Early on, the CIA had a unit just for him, right? Halleck Station. That's right. Headed by Michael Scheuer. They were known for being, well, intense, unorthodox, cultish were words used.
Seen as maybe a bit too emotional or alarmist by the higher-ups. Yeah, even though they were sounding the alarm bells pretty loudly and early, they really felt the threat.
And they used controversial methods, like rendition.
They did, sending suspects to other countries for interrogation, often to bypass U.S. legal processes. It was a messy business.
And frustrating for them. There were missed chances, weren't there?
Definitely. Plans to actually grab bin Laden in '98 were apparently vetoed. Too risky, concerns about U.S. casualties, or maybe hurting his family members who were with him.
And even after the embassy bombings, the cruise missile strikes.
Missed him. Part of the reason cited was worry about hitting a nearby Moth collateral damage concerns. Scheuer's team felt like their hands were tied sometimes.
But after 9/11, that all changed.
Completely. Finding bin Laden became priority number one. Almost unlimited resources, unwavering focus across multiple agencies.
And they needed a system for this new kind of hunt. That's where F3EAD comes in.
Right. F3EAD. It stands for find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, disseminate.
Okay, break that down.
So, find the target using all sorts of intel, fix their exact location, finish the mission capture or kill, then, crucially, exploit everything you find on site. Documents, computers, phones.
Get that Rolodex.
Exactly. Then analyze all that new intel and disseminate it back out to the teams to start the cycle over again, finding new targets or leads.
It's like this relentless intelligence machine.
A vast matrix. And it wasn't just tech, it meant rebuilding human spy networks, HUINT, which had kind of withered after the Cold War.
And technologically, you had things like TIA, Total Information Awareness.
Ah, yes. That caused a huge public outcry initially. Sounded very Big Brother.
Understandably.
But the core idea survived. Collect massive amounts of data and use smart software to find hidden connections. That's where companies like Palantir came into play.
Founded by Peter Thiel and Alex Karp. Their software helped analysts sift through mountains of data.
Immensely. Developed in this place they nicknamed the Shire. It was about connecting dots that humans might miss.
But it wasn't just software. There was a human bridge needed to make it work on the ground.
Absolutely. You have stories like Guy Filippelli, this young army captain, a self-described geek.
Right.
He had to convince these, hardened special ops guys that data analysis could actually help them.
Not an easy sell, I imagine.
Probably not initially, but he showed them how analyzing seemingly random stuff, pocket litter from raids, detainee debriefs, could reveal patterns, identify networks.
Letting JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command,
The elite units like SEAL Team 6, Delta Force.
letting them learn faster and act faster than the enemy.
That was the phrase. It was a genuine game changer in operational tempo.
And alongside data analysis, you have the rise of drones.
The drone revolution, yeah. Guys like James Snake Clark, an Air Force colonel, were pioneers with early UAVs, the Gnat, the Predator.
These were more than just spy planes.
Oh, much more. They were unblinking eyes. They could provide constant surveillance over an area for days, weeks, even months.
Something a satellite flyover or manned plane just couldn't do.
Yeah. Exactly. Perfect for finding these stealthy targets who knew how to hide from conventional surveillance.
There was that story about the Predator finding those Iraqi radar vans.
Yeah, the spoon rest radars. U-2s and AOSCS couldn't find them because the Iraqis would hide them under bridges or trees when they heard planes coming.
But the Predator,
Just quietly circled overhead, watched them drive the van under a bridge, and boom, located. Later systems like Gorgon Stair were even more powerful.
covering huge area.
Square kilometers, with computers monitoring feeds, tracking vehicles, building pattern of life maps. Computers don't get bored or distracted.
Incredible detail. So all these pieces, the data analysis, the human intel, the drones, they start coming together for the bin Laden hunt itself.
Slowly but surely. A key piece was this alias, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti.
The courier.
The courier. His name first popped up way back in 2001 from one detainee, then again in 2002 from another guy captured after fleeing Tora Bora.
And the second guy mentioned a clever communication trick.
Yeah, this draft email method. They'd write messages, save them as drafts in a shared email account, and the recipient would log in, read it, delete it, maybe write a reply draft.
So the email was never actually sent across the internet. Harder to intercept.
Exactly, smart tradecraft. But initially, the name al-Kuwaiti didn't trigger huge alarms. There's just so much information flooding in.
Information overload.
Right. But the name kept simmering. Then, in 2004, during the interrogation of another key operative, Hassan Gul al-Kuwaiti came up again, and this time it clicked. Gul confirmed he was a very trusted aide close to bin Laden.
Okay, so now he's a person of major interest.
Definitely. By 2007, combining human sources and all that database searching, they finally linked the alias to a real person.
Ahmed, a Pakistani guy originally from Kuwait, spoke Pashto and Arabic.
And crucially, they could start mapping his family, his known associates. They could start watching them.
And the big break came in 2010.
Yeah, a phone call. They intercepted Ahmed talking, and he said something like, "I'm with the same ones as before."
Bingo. That strongly suggested he was back with bin Laden's inner circle.
It was the thread they needed. They followed that thread, tracking his movement.
And it led them straight to Abbottabad, to that compound.
Yep. And the compound itself just screamed, something's wrong here. Way too big for the area, walls incredibly high, barbed wire.
No phone lines, no internet connection visible. Burning their trash instead of putting it out.
Reflective coating on some windows. And evidence of a third family living upstairs, separate from the courier and his brother's families downstairs. Kids who never seemed to leave.
The analysis was intense. They were counting laundry on the line.
Trying to estimate the number of occupants, yeah. Monitoring the few times kids went for doctor visits. Every little detail mattered.
And then they saw him, the pacer.
Right. Via long-range cameras, they saw this tall, thin man pacing back and forth in the garden, often under a tarp, consistent with bin Laden's reported height and habits.
And John Brennan at the CIA, who'd been hunting him for years.
Had a strong gut feeling. Said he recognized bin Laden's distinctive gait, even from that distance.
But still, it was circumstantial.
Totally. It reached a point where, as they said, the lack of disproof begins to feel like proof. Everything fit the theory of how bin Laden might be hiding.
But President Obama was cautious. The sheik hiding from his wives comment.
He needed high confidence, but he also knew they had to prepare options based on what they had.
Which brings us to Obama's decision. Finding bin Laden was clearly a huge priority for him from day one.
Absolutely. He took office in 2009 and made it clear to his intelligence chiefs this was top of the list, kept meticulous handwritten priority lists, apparently.
And it's interesting the contrast. Obama, the liberal Democrat, the anti-Iraq war voice.
Ends up being very aggressive with drones, way more strikes than Bush in his first couple of years, and really embracing special operations.
And surprised some people.
Maybe, but if you look back at his 2002 speech against the Iraq War, even then he made a point of saying he wasn't against all war. He specifically said he'd support taking up arms against al-Qaeda.
So the resolve was there early on. When the Abbottabad intel solidified, what were the options on the table?
Basically two main ones. Option A, a drone strike, kind of a magic bullet approach. General Cartwright was a key advocate for this.
Option B.
Option B, a ground raid by the SEALs led by Admiral McRaven.
Okay, pros and cons. Drone strike.
The throws, no American boots on the ground, so zero risk to U.S. personnel. They had these very precise missiles, small tactical munitions that could potentially kill just the pacer with minimal damage.
Less diplomatic fallout if it went wrong or they hit the wrong guy.
Right. Con. You wouldn't know for sure if you got him. No body, no proof. Bin Laden could become a martyr symbol, even if dead. And no chance to grab intelligence from the site.
And the ground raid.
Pros. Definitive proof, capture or kill. Huge intelligence haul potential from the compound. And massive symbolic value, really closing that chapter for the U.S.
Right.
Huge risks, danger to the SEALs going in and out, the very real possibility of ending up in a fight with the Pakistani military if discovered.
A diplomatic nightmare. Or worse.
Exactly. High stakes, as you said, everything was on the line.
So the debate in the Situation Room must have been incredibly tense.
You can only imagine. Cramped, windowless room, analysts giving confidence levels on the pacer being bin Laden ranging from like 40% up to 95%.
Wow, that's a huge range.
It is. Michael Morrell, the CIA deputy director who remembered the flawed WMD intelligence before Iraq.
Right, he'd been burned before.
He put his own confidence lower, maybe 60%, said past experience made him cautious about certainty.
And the political side. Biden apparently warned about the risk to Obama's presidency if it failed.
That was reportedly part of the calculation discussed. Meanwhile, Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, he remembered the disastrous Desert One rescue attempt in Iran back in 1980.
A failure that haunted the military for years.
He favored the drone strike, worried about the complexity and the crucial relationship with Pakistan for logistics into Afghanistan.
But at Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, she came down on the side of the raid.
Ultimately, yes. Her reasoning, reportedly, was that the U.S.-Pakistan relationship was already pretty strained and could likely survive the fallout from a successful raid. She felt the potential reward justified the risk.
And McRaven leading the SEALs.
He couldn't guarantee success, couldn't guarantee getting in and out clean, but he expressed total confidence in his team's ability to execute the plan if ordered.
And then came a really critical decision point from Obama himself about what happens if things go wrong inside Pakistan.
Yeah, this was huge. McRaven's initial plan had a contingency to basically secure the compound and try to negotiate if they were confronted by Pakistani forces.
Kind of hunker down.
Right. But Obama apparently overrode that. He gave the order. If challenged, the SEALs were to fight their way out.
Wow. Prioritizing the safety of his troops over potentially smoothing things over diplomatically.
A very clear signal. He was willing to risk a direct confrontation with Pakistan to protect American lives.
So the decision made. On Friday morning, Obama sends the email to Tom Donilon, his national security advisor.
Short and sweet. It's a go.
The wheels are in motion.
And the final stage begins. Sunday, May 1st, 2011. They go to incredible lengths to keep it secret.
Obama plays golf, but cuts the game short. Staffers arrive at the White House at odd times.
They even canceled West Wing tours, blaming a plumbing issue, which probably just made people wonder what was really going on.
Probably. Then, 11 p.m. local time in Afghanistan.
2 stealth Black Hawk helicopters lift off from Jalalabad, blacked out, packed with SEAL Team 6 operators in full gear, silenced weapons.
Grossos of their targets. Chinooks following for backup and refueling.
The operation, codenamed Neptune Spear, is finally underway.
And almost immediately, disaster nearly strikes.
Right at the compound, one of the modified Blackhawks, designed for stealth, encounters unexpected air conditions.
Hotter air rising from the compound walls, denser than they'd practiced for with chain-link fences.
Exactly. It caused the helicopter to lose lift. It mushed, as they say. The pilot did an amazing job basically crash landing it upright inside the compound walls, avoiding a total catastrophe. But still, a helicopter down, unplanned, right at the start.
Back in the Situation Room, Obama sees this unfold on the live feed. Must have been nerve-wracking.
Apparently, he moved from a side room right into the main conference room, watching intently. Very tense moments.
But the SEALs on the ground, they just adapted.
Instantly. They blew their way through walls instead of fast roping from the hovering chopper, secured the compound perimeter, engaged the courier, Ahmed al-Kuwati, and his brother Abrar in a guest house and the main building. Both were killed.
Bin Laden upstairs heard the crash, the commotion.
He was reportedly on the 3rd floor with his youngest wife, Amal, waiting in the dark.
The SEALs move up the stairs.
Spot him briefly at the top of the stairs. He ducks back into a bedroom. They follow.
The final moments.
He's shot. Once in the head, once in the chest. It's over.
The call goes out. Geronimo Ikaya. Enemy killed in action. Geronimo being the code word for bin Laden.
But McRaven, listening in from Afghanistan, urges caution. Tells Leon Panetta, the CIA director back in D.C., manage expectations until they have positive ID.
How did confirmation come?
Very quickly, actually. They take photos of the body right there, transmitted them securely back to CIA headquarters at Langley in the White House.
Even with the head wounds, they could tell.
Facial recognition experts at the CIA analyzed the photos against known images. They came back with 95% certainty it was him. DNA tests would take longer, but were already underway using samples taken by the SEALs.
But the news cycle waits for no one. Word starts leaking out.
Yeah, incredibly fast. A local IT guy in Abbottabad tweets about helicopters and explosions, not knowing what it is. Then Keith Urban, a former aide to Donald Rumsfeld, tweets something like, "Hearing from a reputable source, they killed Osama bin Laden. Hot damn."
That must have set phones buzzing in D.C.
You bet. Then, minutes later, ESPN cuts into the Sunday night baseball game.
Showing crowds chanting USA, USA at the Phillies game in Philadelphia.
The cat was out of the bag. Obama had to move up his planned announcement.
Goes to the East Room, 11:35 p.m. Eastern Time, tells the world, justice has been done.
Huge crowds spontaneously gather outside the White House in Times Square chanting USA CIA even. A massive wave of relief and celebration.
Michael Morell's wife finally understood his 2 months of stress and absence.
And Ben Rhodes, the guy who watched the towers fall as a student, now working in the White House, felt like he had won, a journey completed.
So looking back, the takeaway isn't really about one single moment, is it?
No, not at all. It wasn't a lucky break or one magic bullet. It was this incredibly long, patient, grinding effort. 10 years of intelligence work, evolving technology, the skills of the military, spanning 3 different presidents.
That's the real story, the persistence.
Exactly. And it's worth noting, the initial story told to the public got, let's say, glitterized a bit.
How so?
Well, early reports mentioned a sustained firefight and suggested bin Laden used his wife as a human shield. Those details were later walked back.
What was the reality then?
There was shooting, definitely. The courier and his brother fired back. But bin Laden himself wasn't armed when confronted, wasn't actively resisting in those final moments. He'd had maybe 15 minutes while the SEALs cleared the lower floors. His wife Amal was wounded when she rushed the SEALs, which likely led to the initial confusion about a human shield.
Yeah, and his life in that compound. It sounds pretty grim.
Isolated, yeah. Cut off from running his organization directly, his world, his caliphate, had basically shrunk to those compound walls.
Yet, ironically, he was apparently still boasting about how good his security was just days before the raid.
Confident he was safe from drones and surveillance. And there was that detail about him dyeing his beard black for his video messages. A touch of vanity, even at the end.
Trying to project strength he no longer really had.
Seems like it.
And after the raid, the decision about his body was crucial.
Very. They decided on burial at sea from the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson. Performed according to Muslim rites, but done specifically to prevent his grave becoming a shrine or rallying point.
A controversial, but probably necessary step. And then there was the fallout with Dr. Afridi.
Right. The Pakistani doctor who ran the fake vaccination clinic for the CIA to try and get DNA confirmation from the compound's occupants. He was later arrested and imprisoned by Pakistan, which caused another major diplomatic headache.
It highlights the messy realities behind the clean narrative.
Absolutely. This whole saga really showed how warfare had evolved. The power of intelligence, the precision of special forces, but also the ethical questions.
Obama himself reflected on that, didn't he? About drones.
Yeah, he talked about the remoteness of drone warfare, how it makes it tempting to think that somehow we can, without any mess on our hands, solve vexing security problems. It's easier when you don't see the consequences up close.
Which leaves us with a thought for you, our listener. This hunt redefined counterterrorism, showed incredible capabilities, but it also laid bare these complex ethical challenges.
So how will future leaders navigate this? Balancing that desire for decisive action against what the sources called the probabilities that disguised uncertainty, because certainty is rare in this business.
And what happens when the next threat emerges? One that requires another complete rethink, maybe new tools we haven't even imagined yet.
The bin Laden hunt provides a blueprint, perhaps, but also a warning about the complexities and costs involved, something to definitely keep thinking about.